Welcome, everybody, to our monthly meeting for the Bloomington Arts Commission. We go ahead and start this meeting at 5:05. And we will start with the approval of the minutes. I know they were posted today. I hope you all had a chance to review them. They were very short. Does anybody have any questions regarding the minutes? No questions, so I move to approve the minutes as they stand.
I second.
Perfect. Nick? Yay or nay?
Yay.
Rachel?
Unmute myself, yay.
Karen?
Yay.
Essence?
Yes.
Quentin?
Yes.
Elliot? Valeria?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. And Sean, if you can give us an update on the financials.
No changes year over year. So we still have 61,635 in the 402 municipal account, and then we have 396165 in the 40. Or no, I'm sorry. The previous one was 402. This is 403, which is the Arts Commission operating. So no changes from month to month.
Very well. I'm scrolling here through my screen and I just want to see who's here from Forest Center for the Arts to say hi. Not sure.
It's Chaz.
All right. Well, with no video and no first name, it's hard to tell. Welcome to the meeting.
I haven't joined these online yet, so I didn't know how it went. But hi, thank you for having me.
Always. All right. Let's jump right into the public art projects. Let us start with Trades District Garage. Nick, Sean.
Yeah, I can take this part, Nick, if you want to take the next bullet point B. But all the projects are under contract, so we're moving forward with that. The Trades District Garage piece with Esteban will have a pretty. We talked about this last week at the Public Art Planning Committee meeting. We'll be doing a pretty wide community engagement project with that. And Helen, who's on here, our wonderful O'Neill SPIA Service Corps member, will be helping Esteban think through the strategy around that. So what's going to happen is they'll likely, with his tile project that we have approved, the tapestry quilt kind of piece, we're going to do a downloadable PDF that will be available citywide for people, individuals, to be able to download on themselves, and whether they have an iPad or they want to draw physically. And then we'll create a website or some kind of Gmail account to host that, so that potentially we could cast a wider net beyond just the potential partnerships between IU First Nations, the Indigenous Center at Purdue, as well as potentially Boys and Girls Club, all that kind of stuff. So Helen and myself are going to be working a lot with Esteban on community engagement strategy. We don't have a lot of time in terms of turnaround for his production schedule, so we just want to make sure we cast a wide enough net for community engagement and get people involved. And so that's looking like that should occur. I think his ideal timeline is to go into production by the end of March. The garage will be open by then, and we'll likely have maybe some kind of, and I'll probably task the Art Commission with this, some kind of way of showcasing what the public art piece will be. We very rarely are a part of an opening of a building. We tend to be kind of after the fact, just the timing of construction, those kinds of things. So that's a really exciting opportunity with Esteban Garcia's work. 4th Street Garage, we are trying to get that project expedited and on track. The garage will be completed by August. It's kind of hard to believe that it was able to go up that fast after the long delay of the project, but it's moving very, very fast. If you haven't been downtown, definitely drive by and see it. It's pretty impressive. So that was not under the original timeline that was given to Project One or Ignition Arts. So I'm trying to work with them pretty closely to fast track that project as best we can without sacrificing any quality or those kinds of concerns. Trade sculpture is moving forward. We are finally closing out and getting everything under contract there. And that is also slated for completion by the end of this year. So all of the kind of public art pieces that we've done over the past couple of years actually will kind of come to fruition in 2021. So lots of ribbon cuttings and planning that we'll need to kind of start to work on. And I'll start to regularly work with the Public Art Planning Committee, but just also in general, this citywide or the commission-wide efforts on that. So I'll likely carve out some time at each meeting in the next coming months to kind of talk about our strategy around that. We had a fairly successful digital ribbon cutting with the Black Lives Matter mural. So thinking through those strategies about being more inclusive, opening, casting kind of a wider net of just the usual suspects that are usually at these ribbon cuttings, or how do we want to celebrate the artist? What kind of other, projects we want to, or programs we want to involve, that kind of stuff. So that's a brief and quick update on all of that. And Nick, it's on to you for Public Art Master Plan.
Cool. Any questions about those projects before I move on?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that, Nick.
Okay. Then, the Public Art Committee had a meeting on Friday where we talked through an outline draft of the master plan. Over the previous month, the committee had a chance to, I think, sit with the materials and sort of wrap their brains around a little bit more. So basically what we've done is we have a revised outline for the sections that we want to include in this, just to kind of run through very quick headlines, table of contents, an about section, a section sort of talking about what public art is, providing definitions, distinctions between public and private, temporary and permanent, physical pieces versus activation and programming, and then sort of describing our values and goals. And then from there, getting into, the BAC's like funding and management of public art with the 1% program, public and private partnerships, neighborhood association opportunities, other private projects, and then additional funding opportunities and sort of access to programs outside of the BAC. And then a section sort of defining the values and requirements behind public art, both from really practical things in terms of location and scale and audience to, how they should reflect concepts of sustainability and equity and inclusion, talking about how art fits in the built environment and infrastructure. And then from there, we want to include a directory or at least a link to the city's public art inventory, and then getting into sort of a more very citizen focused, how can you get involved in public art? Sort of talking about opportunities for advocacy, citizen-led projects, volunteering, other types of support. And then finally, a public art toolkit that really gets into more specifics as far as how folks can interact with us as a commission, how people can interact with and engage with this meeting, and just sort of general, links to additional like resources and information. So those are just sort of quick bullet points on it, but that is, so I think, Sean, what you have there, that's an older version of it.
Yeah, sorry, hang on.
But I don't mind, like we can circulate the link to the latest.
I put it in the chat.
Okay, cool. Basically I think we talked through this, and I think we have at least sort of like the overhead view sense of sort of what we want included in each of these sections. And then we basically divvied up each section. We have 1 to 2 people from the committee sort of attached to each to start working on, fleshing out, the copy, building case studies, pulling in like links to resources, things like that. And so those pieces have been delegated out to folks, and then that's sort of what we're going to regroup on next month is how we've progressed there, what questions or hangups challenges people have come across as as they've been working on their sections. But I think for sort of the multi-month timeline that we've sketched out to try to get this thing done by June, I think we've taken a good sort of next step on it. So I know that about half of you were in that meeting, so I don't want to ramble on too much about it, but for those who are in the meeting, I guess anything else that you want to highlight, or for those that were not, any sort of just general questions at this phase. The floor is open.
Well, I'll just say something. I apologize that I missed the meeting, which I have done more than once. But so Nick and I are going to be working together, it sounded like. How will that look like? Are a lot of the sections kind of divvied up between multiple people? Or how do you want to work together, Nick? Or is that a conversation on the side?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to vary a little bit. I think that with the section, Sam, that you and I are working on, the funding and management of public art, sort of getting into process and case studies. I think even within that, you and I could probably do a little bit of divide and conquer. Pick a couple sections. I mean, so maybe what I would propose is like you and I just trade some emails to sort of come up with like what we want to include as like the template for a case study, like what information we want to include, and then once we have a template, I think that we could sort of split them up and come up with a specific content for each one.
Also, the way the document is formatted, you'll see the yellow highlighted titles that's attached to an assignment. So 1 or 2 people are assigned to each section. So you can see who is there, who's working on it. And you can either add things to their things under suggestions so that they know who's making suggestions to their section. There's nothing stops you from collaborating across other sections if you have something to add. And then they'll accept or decline those comments.
A quick question. Hey everybody, it's been a while since I saw you all. I'm very excited to be back. I was just wondering, are there any sections that haven't been assigned or anywhere I could jump in to help? Yeah, I'm back. I have a lot of energy this semester, so I'm looking forward to help out.
I would love a second voice on the toolkit, which is assigned to me.
Okay, okay, cool.
Yeah, and we will take you up on that. And this
great.
is for all commissioners too. If you come across other communities, like I just shared out, and I can share this out with the group. Seattle is doing a really interesting thing with their cultural district program right now. So yeah, if you all come across anything, please just email me or feel free to email the full commission about it. I think it would be helpful to kind of have those kind of conversations, and this will help us both not only with the strategic plan that we just worked on over last year, but also the public art master plan.
Yeah, and I'm realizing we talked about this a little bit in the committee meeting, but just to be sort of direct about it, I think the end goal with this is to create, a document, probably a PDF or something like that. That's a few pages that can have embedded links that go out to other places, whether it's links to more information about the 1% program, or other funding resources or the city's public art inventory. I think that we want to create a plan that, the core principles of and structure of are static for the next few years, that it's intended to be used, but the things that it links to and sort of additional information, it can be a bit of a living document as well. And so, I think as far as audience, yes, we will ultimately, share this with city council, and and there is a part of this that expresses to them, what our mission is. But I think in a lot of ways, we should really focus on this being a document where the community is our audience, the citizenry is the audience. And so, I think that it's not just talking about what we do, but I think the inclusion of the toolkit and sort of getting into case studies and processes, things like that. The goal is really to demystify how this stuff happens, right? Like someone walks through the trades district, or walks by the 4th Street garage, and they're like, how did that get there? Or someone has a great idea for something like something citizen led, like the Janeway project, or there's a neighborhood project or whatever. I think just kind of demystifying and reducing barriers for people, so that people with good ideas can get access to the right processes and other people who can help realize ideas.
And also to simplify, the work inside the city, fielding all of these calls and queries. If we can answer some of them along the way, it will be a lot easier.
Exactly. Yeah. Other questions or thoughts?
Babette?
I just want to say that the more I look at this document and other things, the more confusing it is to me. And the 2 points that you made, Byron, you mentioned the word simplify, and Nick said a few pages. And there's so much redundancy, and that that I think we have to keep those 2 things in mind. And the amount of time that we've spent discussing it or doing other stuff to the end, it just seems like maybe there are too many cooks. And I don't know, but it all seems, I just feel like there's so much energy going into creating these documents, as opposed to maybe the energy of other things that we could do that might be more significant. So that's all I want to say.
Yeah, right now I do think that we have some redundancy and some things that are repeated. And in the meeting, we went over some of them and saying, should they go in this section? Should they go in that? And I think that over the next 4 weeks before our next meeting, a lot of that should level down. And then, yes, it will be up to Nick to parse it all down and make sure that things are not repeated, and to simplify all of the information we gather. And we might decide to take out some things. And that's why I stress the point of saying, focus more on content, bullet points, just the ideas, versus attempting to write it all in these, perfectly structured paragraphs, because we don't want to spend the time writing and composing this long essay only to have come in with a chopping block and be like, okay, this is out, this is out, this is out. So I think we do need to go through the exercise, and this is a document that is required of us, as far as my understanding is about with council. So we do have to provide this. Hopefully, with the strategic plan already in place, a lot of this will fall into place rather quickly.
And then, like,
I hope so.
The toolkit, is there going to be kind of a separate like toolkit, like 1-pager or much smaller thing for actual artists to kind of tackle? And this is more like our thing that
How to.
It's still available to the public, but am I understanding that correct? Is there there will be a smaller toolkit that's more?
Yeah, it's like a resource sheet that I've been assigned, basically.
No, that the toolkit itself is like, if I want to have a mural, what do I do? You're working on gathering like the glossary and all of those things. The toolkit, yes, it will be up to me to most likely to, you know, make this a designed chart, something that becomes very easily digestible. Like, I want to make a mural, kind of like answer my own questions, yes, no's, yes, this is what I need to do. Where if you want more in depth, you go into the other section, but this is kind of like the one pager, your cheat sheet.
Just so everybody's aware, yes, it's part of our statute. We have to have a public art master plan. And ours, we do have one. It's from 2015. Some would argue that that's out of date. So traditionally, every kind of 3 to 5 years, this is going to be a uphill battle that the commission is just going to have to work on. You know, so if we get a good foundation, then we don't have to always start from scratch. So that's, I think, kind of the hope of this one.
Any other questions, comments, suggestions regarding the public art master plan? Any other comments, questions, suggestions regarding the public art committee? Anything for Nick? Okay, with that, then let's go ahead and move on to grants, where we have a big announcement where, if you don't know by now, Essence is going to take on the chair, and Rachel is going to step down, but is still going to be very muchly involved as she continues to be a commissioner. But with school and work and so many things, it's getting a little challenging for her to split in so many ways. And Essence has shown interest and asked that she wanted to learn more about grants, so this will give her some hands-on experience, and so we're very, very excited. So Essence, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, sure. I'm excited about the year ahead as we figure out where things fall for 2021 and 2022. I'm still drafting out some goals, but at the forefront of my mind is to also create a toolkit for the grant side of BAC and make it available for anyone who's interested in applying, whether they're repeat applicants or new applicants. And then the other thing at the forefront of my mind is figuring out new ways to get the word out when we do have grants available. And I am on the social media team for the coming year. And that's one of the ways that I want to implement getting the word out in a different way for grants. And I'm totally open to any ideas and suggestions. So if there's anything that people have been wanting to see on the grant side, just send me any ideas, any suggestions. I'm totally open.
And well, Rachel, do you want to say anything as you step down?
I'm stoked. No, I mean, I am. As Bryony said, I have a lot of things going on in side projects and side jobs and whatever as usual. So I'm very excited though for Essence to be stepping in. We met over winter break. I don't even know how long we chatted for. It was like an hour and a half. We just kind of kept talking about all grants things and the history of grants. And yeah, she's got it all. She has an awesome plan moving forward. I think this is the next agenda item, but discussing like, what do we want to do with the spring grants? We sort of hashed out a few different options just between the two of us, and kind of what I've done over the past 3 years with the committee, and kind of where our grants focus was 3 years ago and how we got to where we are today. So she's got some history, some knowledge on all of that. And yeah, and then looking at the future, like what were my goals and how did I accomplish those ones, and then what are her goals and how can I support her and everyone support her in that in reaching those new goals. So I'm really excited. I'm still going to be on the committee, of course, and I'll be on the public arts committee, and I'll be here, so you know, but she'll be taking the lead. And also, if you are on the grants committee, there is a slight chance that the timing might change, I think. to a new meeting time, still on Fridays and stuff, but we had accommodated due to like class schedules and things. So it might change or it might stay the same, but yeah.
Awesome.
Here's my torch. I'm passing it.
Is there anything you want to add, Essence, as far as what you are planning, or do you want to wait until after your next grants meeting?
I'd like to wait until after the next grants meeting.
Sounds good. Any words for Essence or Rachel from anybody else? All right, well, I want to say, Rachel, thank you so much for the last 3 years. You did a phenomenal job. You logged in so many hours as chair to the committee that it is completely astounding. So you leave a really strong foundation for Essence, and I want to say thank you.
Thanks. That's so sweet. I actually have one last thing to add because I saw Sean's post in the chat. So I'm actually a member of a Slack group that is basically the Indiana, like it's Indiana's NIVA. They're like National Independent Venue Association. It's the Indiana one. So I'm part of that Slack group on behalf of Midway, and this whole venue conversation about venue grants that are coming up, Indiana Venue Alliance, that's the group I'm in. And yeah, they've been doing a lot of work around grants and the second round of PPP. And we have meetings every week, but we also have like resources that are within that Slack channel. So Josh at Hi-Fi, or not Hi-Fi, I'm okay B maybe. Anyways, he's kind of been spearheading it, and they've been doing like funding sessions and one-on-ones in terms of like making sure that venues across the state are eligible and knowledgeable about what's happening with the grants. And all Bloomington venues I've already checked in are communicating with him in terms of like Bishop, Blockhouse, Bluebird, and Buzzkirk for sure are already talking to them about the grant opportunities, because Restart Indiana grant is still open until I believe the 22nd. And then PPP round 2, oh, Cardinal, cool. And then PPP round 2, they've been working with the chamber in Indianapolis to like get more information and stuff from them for, yeah, at least funds up there. So I saw someone had asked like who's eligible in our area, and yeah, they're on it. They're like communicating that with everyone. But if we want to support that effort, I can send out additional information as well.
Yeah, Babette, you bring up a good point. I was just sharing that out, that if there's, museums are eligible too. Anybody that basically is a ticket holding, so like Wonder Lab could potentially be eligible for it. So we've reached out from the city's point of view, but we've kind of exhausted our communications channel. Rachel's involved with the Indiana Music Alliance or the Venue Alliance. I've been communicating with Josh as well. I know that the IAC will be doing a workshop on it as well, the Save Our Stages. So I'll keep you all in the loop on that. But yeah, there's like 3 different frameworks in which people could be eligible for Save Our Stages. It's 15 billion that is for the taking, which is great. And then also PPP, I shared out a resource from Financial Strength for Nonprofits, which is IFF. They're based out of Chicago. That's a really great resource. So if you know of other nonprofits that have already gotten one round of PPP, send them this PDF document. It's pretty extensive in terms of what the requirements are and how you have to follow through with various reporting mechanisms, and then how you qualify for your second round of the Paycheck Protection Program. So those are 2 really good resources to just put out there for folks. Once again, my network is limited at the city, but we've tried to do our best to get it out to the various venues and groups that would qualify, but I'm sure there's always outliers, so.
Yeah, and one other grant that I'll post in the chat in a second, or not grant, but like webinar, is the Arts Midwest Touring Fund. If anyone is familiar with that, Midway received it last year, but of course then we ended up having to go virtual. They still supported us, but they're going to be hosting a webinar that's specifically about virtual programming. So I will post a link to that in the chat as well that y'all can share with people.
Babette?
I'll just say that maybe my frustration is I want to do something. And maybe this would be an instance of Sean, if you, or maybe under Essence or something with Rachel, when you know there's a grant and you know there are 5 people or there's something here, I'd be willing to just make phone calls or to do something, or maybe if there's an additional thing and just breaking it down so that we could reach out to people in our community, because when this whole thing is over, I mean, it's going to be shot here. And I think that it just behooves us now to try to see how proactive we can be about reaching out to maybe some of the people who aren't as sophisticated, who are so stripped down now with the people who might normally look at these kinds of things, so that we could, help make more of an impact when we finally, open up.
Sorry, continue. I thought you were finished.
No, I am. Yeah. What do you think, Rachel?
No, I think that's a great idea. Especially as Essence was talking about doing additional outreach. I think it's a great idea to do one-on-one outreach. However, I do think that we run into the challenge that every grant is different and has different eligibility requirements. And also every grant, every nonprofit has different needs that we don't know about. So it's really hard I think it will be very hard for us to, look at all the grants that are available and then pinpoint which organizations we want to reach out to. And I'm worried that we'll end up, whether it's you or anyone else on this commission, will end up doing a lot more work, like unnecessary work, because we'll be reaching out to individuals and organizations that actually aren't eligible or don't have any projects coming up that would fall into whatever grant category, just because every grant is so different and everyone there is no blanket operating support grants except for like the IAC that is really possible. And even PPP, there's so many different eligibility requirements, and even Save Our Stages, Midway is a presenting organization, but I'm pretty sure we won't be able to apply because of the eligibility. So it's just a lot of additional work, which I'm totally cool with people doing if that's what they want to take on. Just knowing that every point of contact that we make will have to be pretty specific and like tailored to them.
Oh, to your point, when I read, and I just read it very quickly, Save Our Stages, and I saw all the different, caveats in it and whatever, and I'm going, who the hell here, except for maybe the auditorium, or, who's going to be eligible for what? I mean, 15 billion is a lot of money. How do we get a piece of it? So when Sean said how they're limited in his department with how much they can do or not, I mean, I'm happy to do something where it's just as simple as this, a phone call, as opposed to, I'm sure everybody's getting 5 million emails and it's hard to do it, but that we thought maybe this would be interesting to you. We're not telling you anything. You have to look at it and see. We just want making the phone call to make sure you have an awareness.
Yeah.
I mean, today I had an interesting thing. All of a sudden, everybody who's 70 and over can get COVID shots. So I assumed everybody I knew was out there doing it. At the end of the day, I called a few people and they said, oh my God, you're kidding me. So, I mean, here's something that's been everywhere, and, you think everybody should know, but they don't. So, I mean, I would be, anything I could do to try to help with that, because I'm very concerned, as I'm sure everybody in this committee is what's going to be left, when this is over and done with.
Yeah, I hear you totally. And I see where you're coming from. I think with Save Our Stages in particular, and this is where it gets challenging with Bloomington, is it comes down to space. It comes down to the stages and the venues. And we only have so many venues in this town, and all of those venues are already involved in these conversations. So I'm just coming from this place of, I don't really know who else we would contact that's actually eligible. And I would hate for you to be making phone calls that
Well,
can't leave anywhere.
if Essence or Sean identifies some things and needs help with it, or help with, getting it out, or maybe less social media, but the media that some of these smaller people use, I'd be delighted to try to reach out.
Yeah, I think that can come in really handy, Babette, with getting the word out about our programs rather than some of the national stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
like the grant program that we're going to launch this year and stuff like that. I think that's where that comes in handy, and that energy can go. I think Rachel kind of hit the head on the nail. I think there are people in the know, and they're in the know because that's who it's designated for, right? Venues like the Bishop and the Back Door have been closed since March, so this is their last lifeline. And if they don't get this, they're going to close. So they're very much, Dave Kubiak has been very heavily involved in getting the word out and working with those other venues to be sure that people are going to be eligible. And same thing with Josh Baker out of Indy. So I think, and then PPP gets weird, like round 2, you've had to have round 1. So if we're like, what we've been doing at the city is encouraging people to make sure that they've either have their SBA disaster loan in place or have already applied to PPP. So, I think at the very early stages when the first round of stimulus was passed in April, I think everybody thought there was going to be a return to normal in August, and we're now in January. So I think it's more about, aligning efforts on our grants program, our public art program, and really aligning efforts on what we're in control of rather than what other people, because what will happen is, and this happens to me quite a bit, just as from staff point of view, I'll share out a resource about the Indiana Arts Commission and people think I'm the Indiana Arts Commission when I'm not. So that's another thing too. Or I'll share out something about PPP and then I'm on a phone call for a half hour and I'm not the person that they should actually be engaging with, right? So I think we just want to be careful to be in conversation with the things that we are actually in control of or the things we do oversee. But I love that energy, and I think Essence will welcome it on the grants committee. We have 100,000 that we're going to have to release this year, so we got to do a lot of work on getting the word out, because that's the last time we're going to probably have 100,000 for a couple of years. So getting the word out about that is going to be pretty critical.
Yeah, and to add to Sean's point about PPP is even those that received it the first time around may not be eligible if their operating revenue did not decrease by at least 25% this year, or whenever the dates are. And like Midway received PPP originally, but we ended up not, luckily we didn't decrease our revenue by 25%. So we're not eligible for the second round. So there's also like a lot of like just very nuanced and specific, annoying sort of eligibility requirements and guidelines when it comes to the federal and state grants. But I will say though that IAC grants, those are open now, and well, at the end of this week, or actually maybe it's Monday, the letter of intent for organization operational support is due. So that would be totally something that we could call nonprofit organizations that have been running for 3 years within our community and be like, hey, if you're a first time or you've never applied, then you could remind them the deadline's coming up. That could be potentially a way to use your idea and move it forward. Sean, you probably have more info on that than I do. And I guess with the 100,000, I'll just one more thing, and then I'm done. With the $100,000 that Sean had mentioned, Essence and I had both kind of sort of thought about what are some ways that we want to use that, and what are some ways that we can use that in a way that also like protects the grant fund moving forward. Because if we gave it all at once, then like, what does that leave us in the future? So Essence, I don't know if you want to talk about that a bit more.
That's what I was about to ask, to be clear, since you just brought it up, Sean. The 100,000, do we have to spend it all this year? Because you have mentioned that 2022 is not going to look the same. Or is it a possibility to spread the 100,000 over 2 years, or however long we have to spend it all this year?
Yeah. Otherwise, it goes back into the general fund, and we don't want that either. So,
no.
And by this year, do you mean by December 31st, or do you mean like by some other random date?
It's not the nonprofit schedule. We're a fiscal year January 1. So yeah, I would not. I would not. Yeah, it should be spent this year.
Well, yeah, that's really good to hear though that it's till December 31st, because we had discussed like maybe we split it up and have multiple touch points throughout the year. We discussed maybe we have a portion of it can be used for loan repayment, since so many organizations have had to take out loans. So maybe a percentage of it can be used for that. We were talking about all sorts of different options of what we could do with the additional funding, which of course the grants committee will probably dive into at their meeting on Friday. But
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like there's a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
So instead of adding them all to the meeting today, take them to the grants committee, hash them out, and bring us kind of like a streamlined version of it.
And with that, goodbye.
All right. Any questions for the grants committee? Comments? Anything else?
Yeah, I would like to say that I would love to participate into the grant commission as well.
Okay, Marnina, you can add her to the calendar. Essence, make sure she's there. Sean, update your notes.
Will do. And also, I just sent out, so this is weird just because actually probably the commission isn't aware of this, but we're a part of Region 8. We used to administer the IAC grants, and people felt like it was of best interest that we don't administer those grants. So it went over to the Brown County Community Foundation. They are not the best marketing organization, right? So letters of intent are due next week, January 19th. And then final applications are due March 4th, but our participation in Monroe County has been dropping year over year, every year for this grant program. So please make sure if you're on various boards or organizations, that they're aware of these types of grants that are available from the state, because if the funding keeps dropping, it's harder and harder for the IAC to request that money. And so it could potentially be a longer term impact. I know that sounds crazy even with COVID, but last year attendance was really low in terms of application pool. And it's been that way for, I think, like 5 or 6 years now at this point. So it's not a good sign. So make sure, and I know that's not a lot of time, January 19th is just next week, but be sure to share that out with your various groups and networks.
That's just for the letter of intent though, which isn't really like a formal letter. It takes like 5 minutes to fill out a couple questions. The actual grant is due in early March, I believe it is.
Yeah, March.
So let people know that even if they aren't able to get in for the operational support and do that letter of intent, they can still do project support, which can be a substantial amount of money that's due in March.
And
Babette.
since I'm talking so much, I'm going to continue. We had spoke, I don't know whether this is public art or grants or our own budget, but there were two things I wanted to talk about or ask about. One is at one time we talked about possibly doing a map of the town and putting on that map where there is public art on it. And it's something that probably would take a while to get done, to get drawn out, to get, figured out. I don't know if that's something we want to do or where that money would come from. So that's question number one. And the second question is, in terms of public art, is trying to find a place or to do something that, for lack of a better word, memorializes this year. That the community, and especially the people who have made our lives continue, I think really have to be recognized in some form or another. And that's something I think that we should try to talk about, whether it would be a piece of sculpture, whether it would be a mural, or what it would be. Because there's, I've been thinking about it. I mean, I wouldn't exist if it wouldn't for all the whether it's from the garbage men to the nurses to everybody. And I think it's something that we should consider in terms of public art and recognize.
Sean?
So that's it.
Sean, I know that you can answer question 1.
Yeah, we do have a public art map. I'm trying to find the link. I think it got broken, but I will. We have a work in progress on that. Catlin Suter worked on that, and it was on the city website for a while, but it looks like the link got disconnected. But I'll.
Yeah,
and about like a physical map, you know. You see.
Yeah, we don't have a physical one, but we do have a digital one via Google Maps, which is helpful. But
which is going to be included in the public art master plan, because it needs to be updated digitally, just because it's constantly changing, and that's part of the problem, that we haven't been able to keep up with it. But if we print it out and post it somewhere, it's going to be outdated within a month or 2.
But yeah, Babette, you bring up a good point of like, how do we mark this previous year? And I think that is something we should look into in terms of the Arts Commission. I think that's a general conversation we should have. I think overall, it seems like we've been trying to triage for the last year and be a resource for the arts community and try to just get funding out. But yeah, how do we want to document this moment? And is there an opportunity for us to memorialize or think about an art project that would symbolize that? And I yield to you all on that one.
So I think for the sake of sanity, we can either go deep right now, or everybody take the next 4 weeks to think about it, research, see what you see out there that other places are doing, and then bring it to the table. I'll make sure it's on the agenda for our next meeting. And then we can have, I think, a more productive conversation about it than we just rambling right now. Thoughts?
I just maybe have 2 or 3 people try to brainstorm together so they can present something more concrete.
Babette, take it away. Reach out to commissioners the next few weeks, talk to them, and brainstorm. This one's yours.
Yeah, I would say just bring it to the next public art committee meeting. And then whether you or a couple other people sort of workshop it before then, that's another forum where we can talk about it and think how we want to bring it in here. I think my only initial thought, just if this helps, as far as how you go about it, is I'm a little reticent to use any on-hand money or to seek out funding, from a public source. And so I feel like a private entity or a public-private partnership, or I don't know. That's the sort of thing that would probably move me more than anything else. I already, we have an obligation to administer the 1% fund, and I don't feel guilty about that. I'm not looking to give that back necessarily. I think it's important that it's incorporated into public projects, but I am reticent to, when there are so many needs in the community, to use public funds or seek public funds for something like that, unless there's a private entity that is motivated to fund it. That's the only thing I have to kind of wrap my brain around.
Well, if we spearheaded something and we decided this is what we thought we wanted, you could get a partnership.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think it'd be that hard.
All right, thank you for adding that. Liz?
I love the idea. I just wonder if maybe it's a little premature. I know that 2020 is over, but we're like, are we sure that 2021 is not 3 2020s in a trench coat at this point? I don't know.
That is a good point, but I think we can start to think about it and kind of explore what we're comfortable with, what we're not comfortable with, where money could potentially come from, what outlets we have, and then we can hold on to it for as long as we need to before unleashing it. But it will then, the strategic part is completed to an extent.
Good call.
As we seek public funds, though, just everyone keep it at the top of mind that we're a city entity that already collects taxes, and also even if it's a private partnership, then we are taking away from our constituents, if you will, their potential corporate sponsorships. So it limits the amount of dollars within the community. And I know that kind of sucks, but just keep it in mind.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we can keep in mind is just the overall budget. You know, don't come up with a 100 grand project, but keep it, you know, under control. Anything else regarding this before we move on to the next item on the agenda? All right, then strategic plan. There isn't a huge update. The implementation. All right, so in terms to the strategic plan, the implementation schedule is available to all of you. Some of you have written down your names on things that you want to work on. So as Essence mentioned earlier, she's going to be spearheading social media, and Valeria offered to help. Hold on. Hey, dogs. Asking a kid to interfere. Rachel, you are working on the website. Do you need assistance?
I don't think so. I mainly have a question though on that.
Okay.
So you know how I presented the website layout to you and Armin for Cardinal? Is that kind of what you all are hoping for? Is just like, but a way simplified version of that, of like this is what we need on it, and this is that like just in a Google Doc, or is there something?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Especially since we can't really design or do anything on this website. Right. I think it's really just figuring out the content and what the tabs are.
Yeah, then I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I spoke with Karen a little bit about starting to explore cross-commission collaborations and just very preliminary, starting to identify what other commissions we would like to collaborate with or just get to know who's behind them and where we can potentially overlap and help each other. Obviously grants, we've got Essence and Rachel and Quentin and Liz, and now Valeria. And then finally, other item that is starting is the community hour idea, which Babette offered to help me with. So that's something, Babette, that I'm going to be calling on you probably next week to start to get things together that we can present in the next month or two as for preliminary. So we're right on schedule, just starting to launch all of these little things. Anybody have any questions regarding the strategic plan or the implementation or wanting to participate in anything specific?
I'd like to help you with the community engagement, Bryony.
Perfect. Noted. All right, well, that was easy. Sean. The Waldron?
Yeah, Waldron. So as you all know, Bryony is our representative on the task force. They've met once. They are meeting again at the end of January to do their due diligence. We still don't have ownership of the building yet. That should happen in January. We're doing a variety of different things to look into it. And we'll hopefully, I believe in Bryony, right? It's April is the timeline, right?
Yes. And we are conducting 8 focus groups in the next 2 weeks with different, one is arts organizations, another one is downtown businesses. There's 8 different categories that all of the different task force members are participating in. So hopefully that will help us get a little bit more insight from the community as to what the outcome should be.
And just so you know, we're not making the city, even in the short term, we're not making the building available to anyone. WFHB's in there, but they have their own kind of separate entrance and exit. But we haven't had any real inquiries, but just to be transparent about that, we're not going to get into the habit during COVID of opening and closing the building. We just don't have the staff capacity or the finances to really do that. But just so you know, so I've gotten a few inquiries out, but from folks that are looking at like an updated timeline, like Bloomington Boogies, and obviously we're communicating with Cardinal Stage and the main users of the space, Jewish Theater, those kinds of folks. But as of right now, it doesn't look like there's any kind of return to normal in person until the fall, but who knows? Let's see if the vaccine rollout changes that, or, you know, it's hard to imagine when we're pushing almost 400,000 dead and however many cases we've had that it's going to be a quick flip back to normal. But there was a really exciting Wash Post article. I don't know if anybody is behind the paywall there, but I'm happy to save a PDF about how this is actually changing some of the entertainment community and the arts access for the better. So we'll see what kind of comes out of that. So the Waldron stuff, is there any beckoning questions via the Waldron that Bryony or myself can answer in the meantime? Seeing none. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't really much.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good task force. The people that are involved are very, like, there are people that were a part of the Ivy Tech Community Advisory Board for the last 10 years. There are real estate folks, there's banking folks, there are people that are invested in the future of arts and culture, but also invested in the future of the building itself. I think there was some concern there that it might have been, you know, not bipartisan in a lot of ways, but it is a lot of committed individuals that know the ins and outs and are wanting the best outcome for the community. You know, we should get an update on the hospital site soon, so be on the lookout for that. The hospital master planning, just from the city point of view. Like I said, the garages, the Trades District garage is to open in March. The 4th Street garage is to open in August to be operational. So those are some pretty big, significant infrastructural projects going on. You know, we're really just trying to triage what we can out of PPP and the new federal stimulus program and what that looks like. A bit of other exciting kind of fun news, and I know Chaz is on the call. Paper Pavilions opens this Friday at the FAR Center. We're excited to be partnering with FAR on that. It's going to be in their theater space, which is kind of a unique, beautiful, it looks like a Soho gallery, if anybody's been to New York in the last couple of years. But we're really excited. Some of the works have changed and evolved, and Chaz has been very helpful in brokering that partnership with the Bloomington Entertainment and Arts District and all of the artists. So thank you, Chaz, for that. And we have, 6 o'clock? We are Instagramming live from the theater, right? So tune in on the FAR Instagram page for that. And then other than that, that's I kind of yield my time. I'm happy to answer any questions from you all about this year, finance from the city, anything like that. It's the start of the year, but there's a lot going on, which is good.
Silence, so I think you're good. All right, shall we move on to commissioner announcements? Any commissioner announcements? All right, well, yeah, I mean, not much going on.
Oh, I forgot. I added in our folder, and I emailed you all this, but please, and Bryony and Quentin have already chimed in on this. Please look through that ICMA guide. I think that it will be helpful for all of you to kind of consider a variety of different projects. You know, Bryony or Babette, you were talking earlier about how do we memorialize this year. There could be some really interesting case studies that come out of that. That's a really thorough guide that I've been involved in for over the past year. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears in terms of a guide with 12 other advisors, and trying to really make sure that local governments know the potential power of the arts. Unfortunately, you know, we started on the plan before COVID, but I think we did a healthy job of thinking through post-COVID strategies as well, and highlighting projects that kind of would align with what we're kind of going through right now. So yeah, please take your time and review it, please, because I think it's a really interesting resource and guide. And please share it out to folks. The ISC is already aware of it and that kind of stuff. But if you have friends at IU or whoever. It's a great, I think, document personally.
Any public comment, Chaz? Anything else you want to add?
We will be open Wednesday through Friday from 2 to 5 to see the Paper Pavilions show starting on Friday or next week, really. And then we also have a show in the Pictorial Gallery. So if anyone wants to come by, that would be great. You have to wear masks. We're trying to be really safe. And also to note, if you feel uncomfortable going inside, you can see the Paper Pavilions show from the street. We have glass garage doors. You can see inside that way, so it's pretty cool. And I'll be leaving, one of the pieces is projected on this white wall we have in the theater, and I'll be leaving that up later into the night on some nights. So anyway, that's all for me. Thank you.
All right, well, unless anybody raises their hand in the next 3 seconds, we will adjourn this meeting nice and early. Babette.
Barney, did Esteban get enough people for his squares?
That is yet to happen.
Okay, because I spoke to a few of the high school groups, whatever, that would be interested, and I didn't know what to do with that information.
Yeah,
we can work with you. Helen and I will reach out. We have a planning meeting with Esteban next week, so we'll reach out.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but Sean, the idea is that there will be like a proper public announcement where it's, yes, we'll want to do additional engagement, with schools and individual contacts where we can mobilize, and engage multiple people at once, but anyone in the public will be able to participate.
Yeah, the hope is, and I didn't explain this very well, the hope is we'll have a digital, like online or a print version that includes everybody's design that participate in the project. I think we're waiting on final numbers, and I think that 300 tiles will be chosen to be included in the artwork. So that's potentially could be 300 people, right? I don't know if we'll get that kind of attendance. I mean, in this digital age, we might. We got, I think, somewhere around that with comments for the public art piece in the trades district, so it's possible. But the idea is Esteban is going to help think through a way of designing kind of a digital format for the project as well, so that there's like an extension beyond just the sculpture, and that it's something we can kind of all stand behind. And maybe that's Babette getting at what you're asking at earlier, like how is that maybe potentially a marker of this year, being online and having a editable PDF that people could download could be a really interesting way of casting, like I said earlier, a wider net on the project rather than just focusing on the Mill and Fairview and Boys and Girls Club, right? So.
All right, anybody else? Any questions regarding when your next committee meeting is, grants or public art? All right, well, let's go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 6:08. You all have a wonderful month, and we'll see you around.